YouTube search why something. I don't know, kids, you can't do that. That's crazy.
Yeah, no. I'm not supposed to do that.
He said you're not supposed to do that. Tell me why I just came across that for the other day for the first time. Tell me why I just came across that for the other day for the first time.
Okay, it can hear now.
Yo. I got it.
You have to turn your thing down.
What?
Because it's going to keep on picking up an echo. So you got to turn your volume down. All right, brother, let's go on ahead and get started. We'll open up with prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done. In earth. As it is in heaven. Give us this day. Our daily bread. And forgive us. Our debts. As we forgive. Our debtors. And lead us not. Into temptation. But deliver us. From evil. For thine is the kingdom. Power and glory. Forever. Amen. All right, Ten Commandments. Exodus chapter 20. Look at that. It's the first thing on the screen. We're going to open up with the Ten Commandments, as we always do.
Exodus 20, starting at chapter 1. And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down self to them, nor serve them, for I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of fathers upon the children, unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me, and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that in them is, and rested the 7th day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land, which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's.
All right. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Today, I am going to be stepping in for Brother Uzziah. We're going to switch this week and next week. All right. And today I'm going to be doing an open Q&A. Shalom. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom.
What's up? What's up, man?
Hey, how y'all doing? How y'all doing today?
All right.
Yes, indeed.
Good, good. So as I mentioned today, I'm going to be stepping in for Brother Uzziah. We're going to switch. So I'm going to take this week and he's going to take next week. Today I'm going to just do an open Q&A. I do have lessons prepared, but I think that circumstances make it best to where I'll just do an open Q&A. So Circumstance. Kind of circumstance.
The switch. Just the switch.
Oh, switch.
Yeah. I mean, unless, let me see. I can do like I did last time. I could show you guys some of the lessons that I have prepared already, or some of the ones that I've done in the past. It's really up to you guys. But I think that, well, really, I'm gonna just stick with the open Q&A though, because you know, we still have some people that we're waiting on. So let's go on ahead and open up with that. But before we open up the floor for questions, I'm gonna briefly run down the 10 Commandments so that we can make sure that we're fully understanding these. Okay?
You know, we'll already open up.
Yeah.
Well, I was joking.
Yeah, right.
3 o'clock.
Well, I mean, look. Let me just tell you from my point of view. You don't have to agree with this. The Sabbath, we already started the Sabbath like in the last quarter of the day anyway. So, and we also are limited in time. And depending on how many questions get asked within a specific lesson, it could go over. So we already started late, and I'm just an on-time person. I play on a team where if we came late, our coaches would tear us up, and that's something that has just stuck with me since.
I can't understand why we can't be here for 3 o'clock.
Yeah. So, anywho, like I said, I'm gonna break down these 10 Commandments real quick, just to refresh our memory, or maybe even jog some questions about it. The first commandment is not to have any other gods before the Most High. Okay. Just to break this down a little bit, the word "before" means in the presence of. Okay, in the presence of. Okay, we know this, or we should know this, when we look at certain old-time movies that use the English language. You'll see magistrates or monarchs, they will say to someone, "Kneel before me," right? Meaning kneel in my presence whenever you get close. And so we know that the Most High is omnipresent. All right, how do we know this? Well, when you go to the book of Sirach, chapter 19, okay, and you read verses. Why are they trying to give me all these other versions? I don't want these other versions. Excuse me. Thank you. When we go to the book of Sirach or Ecclesiasticus, chapter 19, and we start at verse 18, it says here, "The fear of the Lord is the first step to be accepted of him." Okay. It says, "In wisdom obtaineth his love." Verse 19 says, "The knowledge of the commandments of Yah is the doctrine of life, and they that do the things that please him shall receive the fruit of the tree of immortality." The fear of Yah is all wisdom, and in all wisdom is the performance of the law and the knowledge of his omnipotency. All right, when you look up what omnipotency means, it just means to be present or existing everywhere. All right, so when it says not to have any other gods before him, being that he is omnipotent, we should never have any other gods. It doesn't matter where we're at or what part of the earth we're in. All right. Second commandment is to not to bow down or serve these entities. I need you guys to understand that when it says to serve, it's not just meaning to just bow down like to an idol. Most people don't even bow down anyway. Okay. Some people in the Catholic Church, you'll see them actually prostrating themselves before a statue. Okay, but a lot of people don't actually do this. But that doesn't mean that this is the only way that you can break this law. Okay, when you serve a God, all right, when you serve a God, that means you participate in the rites, the rituals, the customs, the things that he does or wants his believers or his followers to do. All right, as an act of worship. So this is why you'll see that certain holidays or feast days of this world, you're not even supposed to attend them, even if you're not doing anything or if you're not engaging with people or whatever the point is. When you serve a God, that is you participating in the rites, the rituals, and the customs that God demands of those people. Okay.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Before you continue, can I back up to
Yeah, go ahead.
something? I want to ask your opinion on something.
Yeah, go ahead.
All the way back up to Noah God before me. I've stumbled when the question is presented. I want to see how you address that word before, because there's really no Hebrew word for that. But before me, some people see it as in front of or more important. Some people see it as before, like, I remember you said something about kneeling for magistrates. That's kind of how I see it, like before, like in front of. How do you? They're gonna say it, before in the dictionary, gonna be like a period of time. Like,
right.
How they say it, during the period of time preceding a particular event. But I don't see that in context that same way. How do you address? I understand it, but how do you address it, articulate it?
That's a great question. To answer that question, I will explain a point that I mentioned to another brother a while, or just this past week. When you're reading the Bible, it is really important to stop and not assume things, okay? Which is what oftentimes happens. When we're reading the Bible, we can read the words, but that doesn't mean that we are taking in the words or comprehending the words. So now when you say before, there's a difference between how we use before in a contemporary sense in the English language from what the translators who are translating this in the late 1500s, early 1600s, when they read before, okay? And this is why I'm doing this. When you read the before in the Merriam-Webster, this might not all the way make sense if you apply this definition to when you're reading it in the King James Bible, all right? This is why it's important to cross-reference this with etymology. So if you look up the etymology of the word before, you can see how this word has changed over time, okay? So here's the etymology of before. It says, in front of, or in former times, in the presence of, okay? This is the point right here, which is why I went to Ecclesiasticus chapter 19 when I talked about omnipotency. Because the Most High is omnipotent, he exists in everywhere and everything. It doesn't matter where you're at or what the circumstance is. Because he is omnipotent, you can never have another deity in the presence of God, ever. It doesn't matter if you're trying to fix the verse to say, well, I'm not putting nothing above the Most High, but there's something that comes second to him, right? See, this is right. This is not the right way to interpret that verse, because of the simple fact that if you put God first, and even if you put another God second, you're still gonna have a problem, because of the second commandment that proceeds right after that, which is, if you serve these gods, even if you put in 100 hours with the Most High and you put in 90 hours with another deity, that 90 hours that you put with another deity will get you killed every time. Every time, every single time. And so this is why I'm saying it's important to not interpret that verse like that, because when you read the entirety of the law, there's no way that you could ever come to that understanding.
No way.
Right. So this is where, if you want to make sense out of it, you have to look at, well, the problem that we have is we're looking at we're having an understanding of the word before that is not the same as what the translators had. Because when you look this word up, let's just look this word up right quick. You go to tools and you look at this word. I want to show you guys something that you can find when you're reading this. Okay. Notice how you see how this word here, it says thou, all right? This is the Hebrew for it. There really is no Hebrew word for it. This is I'll talk about that later. All right, I don't need to go off onto that. But I just want to show you. You see how it says shall have, okay? But there's only one Hebrew word. So when it says shall have, really the word that's being translated is have. But they put shall here. The reason why they put shall here is because in order for this to make sense in English, they need to add this. Okay, I briefly touched on that when we talked about translations and transliterations. All right, well, now let's look at what this word before means. Okay, notice it says this word is a conjunction or a preposition. This word could be translated all of these different ways as upon, in, on, over, by, for, both, beyond, etc. Okay, and you have the biblical usage here. So this is just a prepositional word.
Does the blue letter give a definition, a Strong's definition? Because Strong's doesn't have a definition for before.
No, because
There it is. What is this? What is this?
well, it says the same as used as a preposition. So this is not a definition, right? Which is why I was about to say no. A preposition is something that is just used to help you to fully understand the context of a sentence, right? So if you know Hebrew and you read this sentence, in order for you to make this make sense in English, you have to pick and choose which preposition to put to make this make sense. Okay? And so this is why those scholars, they basically had to do this. This is what I'm saying. It's been about 10 minutes, okay? We have only read 3 verses. And I constantly stress this. Me and, Will knows this because I think I mentioned this to him this past week too. When you're actually studying the Bible, it takes a long time to just get through a couple of verses, okay? And so you can miss a lot of stuff, which is why I'm going over these 10 commandments again, because I believe that we may be missing some things even from these 10, right? So just to let you back off of that, well, does that make sense?
Yeah. In presence of instead of in front of.
Right.
Is how it should be articulated to somebody who's gonna read
Exactly.
without understanding.
Exactly.
Yeah, because in front of meaning more important, I know from my understanding that it can't be that.
Right.
But I can't, like you were saying, I can't assume that someone I'm conversing with
Exactly.
feels that same way because I know it can't be that.
Right.
Just on how to articulate it. Yeah,
Well, that's a great, just to make sure everybody got the question right. How do you interpret Exodus chapter 20 and verse 3? Because to the mind of a person who is just coming in, they can look at that and say, well, as long as I don't put anything in front of God, okay, then I will be good with this verse. Okay? This is why it's so important to cross-reference the law with the law. As a matter of fact, let me show you guys a verse right quick, just to keep banging this point home, okay? Most of us know this verse right here, okay? We say it all the time, we use it all the time, but I can tell you that I know that many people are teaching this not correct. Me, I was actually doing this too, of course, because I was taught this same thing, and of course, thinking it was correct, I was doing this. But now look what this says here, right? This is Isaiah 28 and verse 9 and 10. Who shall teach knowledge? First of all, what is knowledge? Okay, knowledge is the commandments. Okay, that is what knowledge is. So he says, whom shall he teach knowledge? AKA, whom shall he teach the commandments? And whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Okay, how do you understand doctrine? Through the commandments. How do we know this? Let's pause for this from this right quick.
How do we know knowledge is
Great question. How do we know this, right? When we go to Proverbs chapter 4, it says here in verse 1, hear ye, children, the instruction of a father, and attend to know understanding. For I give you good doctrine, forsake not my law. So he's telling you, I'm giving you good doctrine. What's doctrine? Forsaking not this law. Okay, so when we go back to Isaiah chapter 9 and Isaiah chapter 28 and verse 9, whom shall he make to understand this doctrine? Okay, well, what's the doctrine? Not forsaking the law. Who's going to understand that? He says, them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast. When the Bible says milk, milk analogously is something that is easy to digest. Okay, what in the scriptures is easy to digest? Well, we know that the commandments are easy to digest because the Most High wrote them in a way to make sure that everybody understood it. How do we know this? When you read the book of Deuteronomy chapter 27, it says here in verse 3, and thou shalt write upon them all the words of this law. Okay, so now what is he talking about? He's talking about writing the commandments on these stones. Well, how did he write the commandments on these stones? It says here in verse 8, and thou shalt write upon the stones all the words of this law very plainly. In other words, you did not need a priest, okay? You didn't need a bishop or a clergy member to teach you the commandments. They're written in a way where the average person could understand it. Now, we know the reason why we're having this conversation in the first place is because the question was, when you're reading something in English, you have to worry about how do we use this word today in English? How did the translators use that same word in English back then? Because it could be different. And then how does it translate to Hebrew, which is another issue? Okay, this is what I'm saying. We're still going over one law right now, and we didn't went to what 4, 5, 6 verses already. This is what I'm saying, and this is how you actually not fall for false doctrine. Okay, but going back to Isaiah chapter 28, because I still haven't finished that. In the book of Isaiah chapter 28, again in verse 9, he says, "Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast." Again, what is easily digestible? The stuff in the scriptures that are plain. What in the scriptures are plain? The things that are in the scriptures that are plain is the commandments. How do we know this? We didn't even have to really go to Deuteronomy 27 to know that, though. Because in the next verse, it says what? For precept must be upon precept. Precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little, there a little. Most of us think that a precept is any verse in the Bible, okay? This is not the case. Any verse in the Bible is not a precept. But this is how many of us are taught, me as well, and I also taught this. This is why I'm saying it. One of the main reasons why I'm bringing this up is not only to answer your question, but also to show that I was actually teaching this wrong. All you have to do is look this word up. Precept. Word here is savav. It says command, ordinance, oracle. Definition. Commandment. Precept. So when the Bible says precept upon precept, you don't really understand the Bible by going to other verses in New Testament, Old Testament, Apocrypha, stuff like that. This is how it's taught. What this is saying is the way you understand a commandment is by going to another commandment. That's what that's actually saying. And the way that you understand, even if we didn't go through all this, Exodus chapter 20 and verse 3, is if you go to other commandments that talk about you serving other gods, okay? This is how the Most High feels about this. Here's Deuteronomy 13. We read this. I'll read it again, just so that we can see how this is one of the most grievous commandments, letting you know how much the Most High is serious about not serving other gods. So you couldn't say, well, I'm going to serve God for 100 hours, but then I'm going to serve another entity, anything less than that. That's a huge, huge issue. It says right here, yes, in Deuteronomy chapter 13 and verse 1, if there arise among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, and giveth thee a sign or a wonder, and the sign or a wonder that come to pass, whereof he spake unto thee, saying, let us go after other gods. It doesn't matter if you don't go after them as much as you go after the Most High. He just said, let us go after other gods. This is a prophet, allegedly. It says, which thou hast not known, and let us serve them. Okay, serve. Remember, serve is not just to bow down. Okay, most people are not bowing down to deities. Serving is, again, participating in the rites, the rituals, the customs, the things that are pleasing to these deities. Okay, thou shalt not hearken unto the words of that prophet or that dreamer of dreams, for the Lord your God proveth you. This is telling you in the law that God, all right, will do this. His law telling you this. He's saying that he's proven you through this false prophet. He says to know whether you love Yah, your Elohim, with all your heart or with all your soul. So he needs to know this. Remember, he did this to Abraham. All right, and Abraham is considered a friend of God. Abraham, I'm sure, is more righteous than anybody today. And if he had to prove Abraham like that, he's telling you in his law here, he has to prove you too. Well, how is he going to prove you? He says, and walk after the Lord your God, and fear him, and keep his commandments, and obey his voice, and you shall serve him and cleave unto him. And that prophet or that dreamer of dreams shall be put to death, because he hath spoken to turn you away from Yah, your Elohim. So again, there's no way that you could think that when it says not to serve or have any other gods before him, that somehow means that you can serve God and then serve anything else less than God, as long as you're not going above him. Okay, that is not how you interpret that verse. Anybody who is interpreting that verse is let's just say that they're going to have some issues if they keep on interpreting that verse like that, because when you read the rest of the precepts that are in alignment with that, there's no way that you can come to that understanding. All right, and this is only one. Okay, this is only one. So just for those who are just walking in, I am stepping in for Brother Uzziah today. I'm really going to just do an open Q&A. But before I do that, I'm just slightly touching on the 10 Commandments, all right? And just stop me anytime. If anybody has a question, please don't forget to give them the mic, because I'm not even thinking about that right now. So going back, Exodus 20. All right, just so we can see these commandments again. So we talked about not having any other gods before him. We talked about not serving, all right? Taking the Most High's name in vain, right? We see that here. We see that here in verse 7. Now, there are many ways that you can interpret this. I'm not going to tell you what's the right way to interpret this, what's the wrong way to interpret this. I'm just going to give you some of the prevailing theories around this verse, okay? As we mentioned, or as I mentioned in that lesson that I did about the Most High's name, you did have people who viewed that verse, especially in ancient times, that to even say the Most High's name for any just random reason was an issue, okay? That theory is still held to this day, especially by the Caucasian Jews, okay? You'll hear them say Hashem when they're referring to the Most High. And what Hashem means in Hebrew, it means the name, like that. It literally translates to the name, okay? However, biblically, the only verse that you see quoting this law right here comes from the book of Proverbs chapter 30, okay? So, but look what he says is taking the Most High's name in vain, right? He says here in Proverbs 30 and verse 5, every word of Elohim is pure. He is a shield unto them that put their trust in him. Add thou not to his words, lest he reprove thee, and thou be found a liar. I'll talk about that later. 2 things I have required of thee, deny me them not before I die. Now here, you see this word before here? This might be more in line with right, the current definition of the word. But this is again why you have to cross-reference these words, look up definitions, look up etymologies, etc. He says, remove far from me vanity and lies. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with food convenient for me, lest I be full and deny thee and say, who is God? All right, who is the Most High? Who is Yah? Or lest I be poor and steal and take the name of my Elohim in vain. Okay, now, what does this mean? Well, you can interpret this verse as saying, well, stealing is taking the Most High's name in vain. Okay, there are some people who suggest that. You could also say that just the state of being poor will make you depressed such to where you will take the Most High's name in vain. We know this because in the book of Job, Job's wife tried to get him to do the same thing, right? When you read at the end of the book of Job, it says here in verse 22 or 21. No. Where is it at? Where is it at? I think it's in the next chapter. Yeah. I think it's in the next chapter. Where is this at? The point is here, what I want, but I'm not looking for. I'm not looking for this specifically. I'm looking for the specific thing that she told him. All right, there it is. It was in the next chapter. So right here in Job chapter 2 and verse 9, he says, or it says, then said his wife unto him, dost thou still retain thine integrity? Now, the question here is based on the fact that Job has lost his children, he's lost his substance, he's lost his wealth, right? He's lost everything, okay? And so he's maintaining his integrity as we saw in the last verse of chapter 1, right? He says he didn't charge God foolishly. Right here, the wife is saying, do you still retain your integrity? Curse God and die. So you can also interpret Proverbs 30, which thereby interpreting what it means to take the Most High's name in vain, to basically say that when you're in a certain estate, all right, particularly one that is poor and it could be overwhelming, etc., you can curse God because of your circumstance, all right? And so you can interpret that like that as well, as we've seen. That's that. So now, when you go back to the 10 Commandments, that was the third. The fourth, right, the Sabbath, which is why we're here now. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. So I really only want to touch on things that I know that we haven't touched on that much in service. Main thing that I really want to touch on is this last part here when it says, "For in 6 days Yah made heaven and earth, the sea and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore Yah blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it." Right? The Most High is telling us to do what He did, right, upon creation. Now, this is very significant because when you read the commandments, you'll find that there are times where the Most High says something particular, where He says, "Walk in His ways," as I have pulled up here. In Deuteronomy, He says this in chapter 8 and verse 6. He says to walk in His ways, okay? And it's in Deuteronomy 26 and verse 17, walk in His ways, okay? And it might say it in a different type of way, but the point is, when you see that being said, walking in the Most High's ways, the word walk means how you conduct yourself. And if you're walking or if you're conducting yourself like how God conducts Himself, you'll find that there are things that God has done that He tells you to replicate or duplicate. All right. In the same way He created everything in 6 days, He rested the seventh. He's telling you you can do your work in 6 days and you rest the seventh. Okay. There are many commandments that you'll find He's telling you to be like Him in a way. Okay. The fringes are another thing, right? Not respecting persons in judgment is another thing. He doesn't respect persons. He tells you not to respect persons. Same concept. Okay. I just want to touch on that. Honor your father and your mother. All right. Honor your father and your mother. They have some people that will try to suggest to you that your father and your mother here is a spiritual father or a spiritual mother somehow. No. All right. This is talking about your literal father and your literal mother. Okay. This is talking about your literal father and your literal mother. Yes, we do see in the scriptures the Most High is figuratively referred to as father, right? And we do know that His word in Proverbs is figuratively expressed as mother at times. Even in the book of Wisdom of Solomon, it does this. In Ecclesiastes, it does this too. However, when you're reading this verse is talking about your literal parents, okay? Thou shalt not kill. Now, this word here, kill, some people suggest that it's not the best word. All right. Some people will suggest that it should be murder. Okay. Because you'll find in the Bible, there are many people who have killed people. Oh, you have some? Okay. You'll find that in the Bible that there are many people who have taken others' lives. Okay. But when it says thou shalt not kill here, it's speaking in reference to murder and doing it presumptuously. How do we know this? Because when you go to the next chapter, it breaks that down a little bit further here in Exodus 21, all right, starting at verse 12. Look what it says. He that smiteth a man so that he die shall be surely put to death. Okay. And if a man lie not in wait, look at this, right? This is important. If a man lie not in wait, but God deliver him into his hand. Well, what does this mean? This is very critical when it comes to understanding what the verse means when it says thou shalt not kill. When it says that God delivers somebody into your hand, what does that mean? Can anybody tell me?
He put him in front you.
Put him in front of you for what?
When you take him out.
All right, thank you. That's exactly what that means, okay? And you will read that in the Bible. So now if you're reading thou shalt not kill, but then you read a part of the Bible where God has delivered someone into someone else's hand, that's conflicting, okay? This is why this law is telling you this here. He says, but if a man lie not in wait, but Elohim deliver him into his hand, then I will appoint thee a place whether he shall flee. Does anybody know what this means?
I will appoint thee a place where he shall flee.
But, right, but there's a specific term for it in the law. Exactly, right? The cities of refuge, okay? The cities of refuge. Cities of refuge, okay? So, but the point here is we don't have to really touch on that too much. The point that I want to make is when you read the next verse, but if a man come presumptuously, meaning God did not sanction the execution of a person, right? He's doing it presumptuously, meaning on his own will or on his own volition. If a man come presumptuously upon his neighbor to slay him with guile or deceit, thou shalt take him from mine altar, that he may die. Now, again, you see this word here when it says, thou shalt take him from mine altar. Again, this is something that you can read you can read all the words, but what does this mean? Okay. Well, during biblical times, whenever a person would flee knowing that they were about to be executed, they would do something like catch hold of the horns of the altar, because the altar is holy. You can't shed a human's blood on the altar. That was like a way of protecting themselves. Okay. But what he's saying is, if that happens and a man has killed somebody and is trying to flee to the altar to basically save himself, he's saying to take him off of that altar and execute. Okay.
That boy
So
say
he
you trying to
know
hide.
that thing was dead like, got his feet in the air, pulling him, yanking him.
Yes. Yes. Can you
Just for understanding how you see this. The verse above, what you still have highlighted in blue.
uh-huh.
If a man lie night and wait,
That's good.
God delivers him into his hand. So if a man is not waiting like behind the bushes, waiting on cuz to show up, and God delivers him to his hand, who is the he in the second part? Then I will point thee, or who is thee a place whither he shall flee? Who is he appointing the place to? The one that's lying not in wait but has the man delivered, or the one that's being delivered? Contextually speaking. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, that's a good question. So
I feel
contextually,
kind of ignorant asking that. Like
no. That's not a. Let me tell you something. There's really no bad question. Okay, there's no such thing as a bad question, especially as it pertains to the law. The he, I'll tell you first, and then we're gonna go to the verse that explains.
Okay.
The he here is the person who is doing the killing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the he here is the person who is doing the killing.
So if God delivers this other dude to him and you murder him, I'm going to give you somewhere to flee if you kill him.
Right.
Wow.
That's correct. Let's read this again. If a man lie not in wait, so we have a man, he's not lying in wait. God has delivered him. Notice this him here is italicized, right? So that means what? It's not there in the original text. But when you read Hebrew, you understand that when you deliver something into someone's hand, and being that this is speaking in the context of smiting a man that he died, we know that this is talking about a person. So God is delivering a person to you to destroy. Then I will appoint thee a place whither he shall flee, meaning the man, all right, who is lying not in wait. Now, where's the place where they're going to flee? Okay, this is a great question. I, for the sake of time, am not going to read this whole thing, okay? But for those of you, you know what? You all should just go and read it, because I'm pretty sure that we don't fully know this, okay? This is coming from Numbers chapter 35. This is the place that he's going to appoint where a man can flee. It says here, verse 1, and Yah spake unto Moses in the plains of Moab by Jordan near Jericho, saying, command the children of Israel that they give unto the Levites an inheritance of their possession, cities to dwell in, and you shall give also the Levites suburbs for cities round about them. And the cities shall they have to dwell in, and the suburbs of them shall be for their cattle, for their goods, and for all their beasts, right? So now he's talking about the cities for the Levites. He goes on to say in verse 6, among the cities which you shall give unto the Levites, there shall be 6 cities for refuge, which you shall appoint for the manslayer. Notice, remember the him. You said, who is this for? You're appointing these cities for refuge for manslayer, that he may flee thither, and to them you shall add 42 cities. And so shall the cities which you give unto the Levites shall be 48 cities. So basically, the Levites have 42 cities. When you add these 6 cities of refuge, it'll become 48. All right. Now, when you read this,
Places to hide.
Correct.
After you do.
Now, when you read the rest of this, okay, there may be people who try to hide here unjustifiably. meaning you killed somebody with guile, you try to run to the cities of refuge for succor. If that happens, there's laws that go on further that tell you that no, you take that man out who is not deserving to be here. And remember, the punishment for killing is capital punishment. Okay. But if a person rightfully goes to the city of refuge, the congregation saves that man and lets him stay there. All right.
So who get to dictate that it was on with God or not?
Well, that's a great question too. Loving it. These are great questions. Who dictates whether or not a man is slain with gall or not? Well, that goes back to this law here in Deuteronomy chapter 17 and verse 8. If there arise a matter too hard for you in judgment between blood and blood, between plea and plea, between stroke and stroke, being matters of controversy in thy gates, then thou shalt arise and get thee up into the place which Yah your Elohim shall choose, and shall come unto the priests, the Levites, and unto the judge that shall be in those days, and inquire, and they shall show you the sentence of judgment. Meaning, who determines that? The judges determine that. The Levites determine that. They show you the sentence of judgment. They show you whether or not you were right or wrong or not. And they do that through diligent inquisition. All right. It says, no, I don't want to read this. When you read up further, this is how they do it. Okay. They do it through diligent inquisition. It says in verse 4, and it be told thee, and thou hast heard of it, and inquired diligently, and behold, it be true and the thing certain that such an abomination is wrought in Israel. Right now, this is actually going into what you do when someone is serving other gods. But the point is the same concept happens. When you inquire diligently, this is you asking questions, getting timelines, getting witnesses, getting testimonies. You bring all that information together. It's just like what lawyers do now. Okay, they build a case. And when they build this case against you, they present it to the judge. The opposite lawyer for the other people, they build an opposite case. And then based off all the information that is available, based on the witness's testimony, etc., the judge makes a decision. And then they will remove a man from the city of refuge if necessary. Okay. Oh, that's why I'm going over this. Does that answer your question?
It does.
Okay. So yes, there's a difference. Okay. So when you're reading "Thou shalt not kill" in the Ten Commandments, okay, you need to read this, making sure that you understand that this is not talking about for every case. Okay. This is not talking about for every case. There are times where the Most High is judging somebody. Okay. And when he is doing that, obviously somebody's going to execute it. All right. All right. Committing adultery. This is another one. Okay. Committing adultery is something that if you read this with a today's level understanding, you will not understand this verse. All right. Because of the simple fact that committing adultery, by definition, when you read this, is a woman that breaks wedlock. So adultery is based upon the status of the woman. That doesn't mean that only a woman can commit adultery. It's saying that the adultery is defined by the status of the woman here. When you read this definition, let's go to it. Yes. It says here, in the primitive root to commit adultery, figuratively apostate, a woman that breaketh wedlock. So again, when you look at this, this is critical because adultery is based on the status of that woman. We know this, like we didn't even have to read this definition because when you do precept upon precept, you'll see that the law says the exact same thing. This is Deuteronomy chapter 22 and verse 22. If a man be found lying with a woman married to an husband, notice it did not say if a man be found lying with a single woman or just any random woman. It specifically said a woman married to an husband, then they shall both of them die, both the man that lay with the woman and the woman, so shalt thou put evil away from among Israel. Now, notice something too. Actually, before I go to that, let me hold off on that. Let's go to this other verse that says the exact same thing. In Leviticus chapter 20 and verse 10, it says the same thing. just in different words. And the man that committeth adultery with another man's wife, okay, notice it's putting impetus on the status of this woman. Even he that committeth adultery with his neighbor's wife, the adulterer and the adulteress shall be surely put to death. So again, you don't really have to read that definition to understand that point, but you would have to do precept upon precept to get that understanding, okay? Now, another thing, when you read this definition in contemporary times, if you're in a marriage and one person steps outside of that, okay, typically the person who they stepped outside of that with is not held accountable, okay, to that union. In other words, you got two people, one steps out, the person who that person stepped out with by law is not really breaking any rules, okay? They're not they're not going to be punished for anything. They don't have to go to court for anything and nothing like that, all right? Well, we see here in Hebrew culture, that's not the case, okay? We see that both the man who has broken this wedlock, all right, who is not a party to the wed, he is put to death with this person, all right? So I just want to make that clear. Because again, there's another law that if you read it, just like with killing, just like with anything else, you can come to a wrong understanding, all right? Thou shalt not steal. Look, there are certain brothers who will teach you that you can steal from heathens, okay? I don't know if anybody has ever heard that before.
I just heard that the other day.
You did?
Yeah, I was watching.
Can you get the mic, please?
I was watching a testimony from a brother, and he was saying like when he first came into the truth, he had a urge to steal, and he stopped stealing from just everybody and started stealing from the heathens. Like seriously.
Okay. Well, the reason why I'm saying this is because we know that the heathen are not on the same level as the children of Israel, especially in the eyes of God. Okay, we understand this. When you're reading "Thou shalt not steal," what this is really talking about is in the context of us having a nation. Okay, we're not to steal from each other. We're not to steal from anyone within the realm of our country. What you'll have though is you'll have people who will use verses about what happens when you spoil someone in war. Okay, so there's a difference between stealing and spoiling somebody in war, which even though they are the same thing, the circumstance is what makes it different. Okay, if you go to the grocery store and you steal an item, that's stealing right here. Okay, if you go to war and you know you win and you want to take the items of the other people, like yeah, that's still stealing, but that's a byproduct of war, and that can be done. Okay, so how do yes, we know this because in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 20, it gives you the laws of warfare. Look at that. I did not know that was going to say that, by the way. It gives you the laws of warfare, right? So it tells you what happens. Let's jump to the point. Let me see. Where is it? Here it goes. So I'm going to start at verse 12. It says, and if it will make no peace with thee, meaning before we went out to war, we had to offer the enemy nation a peace deal. All right. In other words, you subject yourself to us, we won't fight. If they denied it, okay, it says, if they will make no peace with thee, but will make war against thee, then thou shalt besiege it. And when Yah your Elohim have delivered it into thine hands, thou shalt smite every male thereof with the edge of the sword. So he says here, destroy every male. All right. But the women and the little ones and the cattle and all that are in the city, even all the spoil thereof, shalt thou take unto thyself. Okay. And thou shalt eat the spoil of thine enemies, which Yah your Elohim hath given you. Okay. So now this is what I'm saying is a difference between thou shalt not steal. Yes, when you take spoil, that's stealing. Okay. Yes. But contextually, those 2 points are not the same. This is not, these are not precepts of each other. All right. This law does not explain to you what thou shalt not steal is. If anything, if you put both of these verses up head to head, that would be a contradiction, okay? And would support the idea or the theory that many people have that say that, well, we don't read the Bible because the Bible contradicts itself, okay? No, the Bible does not contradict itself. You have two different circumstances that warrant two different types of laws that are completely conflicting. Going back to that, let me see, what was that? Bearing false witness. Here's another one. Guys, bearing false witness is not the same. Let me not say that because it is the same. Bearing false witness contextually, just like thou shalt not steal is not the same as spoiling somebody, bearing false witness is not the same as when you just lie to somebody, just a random person, okay? Both of them are lying, yes. But if somebody lies, let's say that I lie and say, I don't know, just pick something, all right? Just say I lied about something. I didn't bear false witness. I just lied. Difference. Bearing false witness is specifically within a court setting, okay? How do we know this? When you go back to Deuteronomy 17, it talks about 2 or 3 witnesses. It says in verse 7, or I'm sorry, in verse 4, I'm going to start back here. Remember when we talked about inquiring diligently? Okay? It says, and it be told thee, and thou hast heard of it, and inquire diligently. Well, the inquiring diligently occurs within a court setting. The judge is here. You're in the place where God chose. You have all the information laid out before you. It says in verse 5, thou shalt bring forth that man or that woman which have committed that wicked thing unto thy gates, even that man or that woman, and shall stone them with stones till they die, at the mouth of 2 witnesses, or at the mouth of 3 witnesses, shall he that is worthy of death be put to death. But at the mouth of 1 witness, he shall not be put to death. Now, here in verse 6 is key, because when the judge makes a sentence, or when the judge makes a decision, he is making a decision based on the evidence and based on the testimonies of the witnesses. So if he's making that decision based on the testimony of the witnesses, if you bear false witness, you are in essence affecting the decision of the court. When you read this further and you precept this further, it also tells you this in Deuteronomy chapter 19 and verse 15. It says here, 1 witness shall not rise up against any man for any iniquity or for any sin, in any sin that he sinneth. At the mouth of 2 witnesses or at the mouth of 3 witnesses shall the matter be established. And then it goes on to tell you what happened with a false witness, right? Thou shalt not bear false witness. How do you bear false witness? If a false witness rise up against any man to what? Testify. Okay? So if I just tell a regular lie, am I testifying? No. Am I before a judge? No. Am I in a court setting? No. So that means I didn't bear false witness. I lied, which is a separate commandment as we're going to get after this. But I'm just explaining to you that simply lying is not breaking the 9th commandment. All right?
Question. Me again.
Yes.
So, I guess for lack of a better term, understanding of commandment could not be looked at minimally as lying on someone, or does the court setting matter that much? I mean, because I've never seen bear false witness as just a lie. Hey, I got a Camaro outside and I'm lying. That's just a lie.
No, but people do that. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, people do that. I'm saying they do that. But if I say Rob got a Camaro outside, I'm kind of lying on him. Can it be minimized?
You're saying does that fall under bearing false witness?
Matter? Or if I lie on somebody and say, yeah, Will stole the potato chips. Now I'm lying on him, but is the court setting what makes it bearing false witness, or is just minimally lying on someone more so than just an unsolicited lie?
So the 2 examples that you just gave, you're saying Rob has a Camaro, that's a lie. You're saying Will stole something. These are 2 different things. I want you to understand.
But I'm lying on them. It doesn't matter.
You are lying on them. But the one with the Camaro, all right, is not bearing false witness.
At all.
The one where you saying that he stole something,
right.
This is a matter now that even though you didn't say it in a court setting, we can take him to court now. And that court setting, we will then call you as the person who initiated the statement to then testify.
Yeah,
So
I didn't like the Camaro part after it came out. So the will part, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Because of the simple fact that, again, when they make diligent acquisition, if you say that Will stole something, all right, let's just say I'm a judge, I hear you. We have to stop right there, okay? Because that is breaking the commandment. Being a judge, you have to execute the Most High's judgment. If you let stuff slide, that gives other people the idea that they can slide with theirs too. So if we don't shut this down, it's going to give off the impression that you could do whatever you want in this realm, which the Most High said that's not going to happen, all right? Or at least he told us to make sure that it doesn't happen. So now if you say that, even though we're not in a court setting right now, by you saying it, we're going to have to go to a court setting so that we can put this situation at rest, and then you will become one of these witnesses here. So now you said he stole. What did he steal? When did he steal it? Who did he steal it from?
Yeah. Did
all
you
of
see
that.
him do it? Yeah, all that. All right. So the answer is yes. That commandment can be looked at plainly as lying on someone, regardless. I mean, because we don't have a government, so we don't have judges and things within us. But if it's just a group, just go lie on somebody, can that be seen?
Well, but there's other commandments that talk about this though.
Well, go ahead then. Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm about to get you going. Can you pass that?
Nah, I'm just picking up what he's saying. So like, all right, somebody, but without like currency, like street justice stuff.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like street justice. So, but without a courtroom, if somebody like my daughter come say somebody raped her or something,
Yeah.
and I take action.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Now, I don't know if she lied. She done bear false witness against a guy, and I done did him something. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of, I guess that's what he kind of like asking, like, do.
Is lying on somebody? Did the daughter in that scenario bear a false witness against the guy that lied, or does there have to be a court setting? Yeah, that's exactly what
That's a great question. So now this is where it gets slippery, okay? Because what we're reading here is in a court setting, I have to go by what is in here and tell you that this is a court setting, okay? Because the only person who has a right to go and destroy that person, that decision has to be made by the judges. You cannot make that decision to go and do something to him yourself. You can, but Torah tells you you're supposed to let the judges make the decision first, and then the judges will actually, like, when we go back to the cities of refuge, the judges will actually give you that man. They will tell you, go ahead, take him out. They will give you that free, but you can't just do it yourself because the judges are more level-headed. See, if your daughter says that, your mind might not think to say, well, what's the circumstance of it? You don't want to ask too many questions. You might just believe your daughter automatically. The judges are supposed to sit your daughter down and ask these questions and determine whether or not this actually happened or not. Because in the event that she is lying, you would have put to death a man who wasn't worthy, and now you have to be killed because of that. Okay, this is why it's so important.
But if the in this scenario, if the action or the reaction is secondary, the immediate or the initial lie,
yes,
is what we're discussing.
That's correct.
Yeah, the action and the reaction, that's secondary, but
absolutely,
them saying such and such raped me, or Johnny stole from me, or any lie on another person.
Okay, so now that is a sin, yes. That is not, however, bearing false witness. Okay. All right. And again, the reason I'm saying that, when you go back to that in Deuteronomy 19, that is specifically within a court setting. All right. Here, though, I'm going to show you where the sin lies. Okay. Because lying is, in fact, a sin. Okay. And that can have effects. You see it written here. It says in Leviticus 19 and verse 13, thou shalt not defraud thy neighbor. Wait, hold on. This is not what I want. I think I want verse 6, I think it is. Where is this verse at? Oh, verse 11. Thou shalt not steal, neither deal falsely, neither lie one to another, right? So here's the law that tells you that. When you read further, This is Leviticus chapter 19 and verse, I think that's 16. Thou shalt not go up and down as a talebearer among thy people, neither shalt thou stand against the blood of thy neighbor. I am Yah. So now this law basically encapsulates the example that you just gave and that you're levying back on, and also the consequences from based on what we talked about. Okay, because when you run up and down as a talebearer, like you said, like you mentioned, lying on Will saying he stole something, or you're somebody saying that someone raped them. Okay, you're running up and down as a talebearer. What that's going to cause is that's going to cause people to bring this situation to the judges, and then you will be standing against. When it says to stand against the blood of your neighbor, that's literally you testifying falsely against the neighbor in a court setting where a decision will be made and that person will get judged accordingly. Okay, and so this is why I'm saying that. Yes, we don't have a court setting, but you have to remember that when the Most High has given us these laws, he's not giving us these laws with the intent that we're going to break all of them, go into captivity, and then not be able to execute them properly. So contextually, he's given us these laws because we're about to go into the land, and he's setting up a structure to how to operate once you get there. And these laws are basically explaining that to you. So yeah, you do have justice where like people just operate on their own accord. But you have to remember that these scriptures are written at a time where that's not really a thing. Yes, I'm sorry.
All right. I might have heard y'all say it, but I don't think I did. I got bad for witness on 2001.
Mm-hmm.
The lady asked me to borrow some money. I told her no. So she got with her friend, and they conspired to lie on me. Them two together. She was false witness that said I did something to the woman.
Right.
At work, and they fired me for that. She lied. She buried false witness. She lied and said she seen me do that. The witness is the one that's lying, not the one that the act is happening to.
That's correct. Yes.
It may just seem like to me, one, you did something, the other one, someone just saying.
No.
But is that considered, I guess, the original question, is that considered bearing false witness or going up and down as a talebearer?
No,
The
tale
woman,
bearer.
what the women did to him in 2001.
That was one
Is
was
that
bearing false
talebearer
witness.
or is that bearing false witness?
That was bearing false witness.
I'm asking the teacher.
I'm telling you, bearing false witness. The other girl,
Because
Pamela-
the other two examples is
Pamela asked me to borrow $300. I told her to give me $450 back. She got with her friend Jessica, and they lied, came over with a story, said I did something on the elevator. And Pamela said she was on the elevator with us, and they had a camera. Me and her went on the elevator. Pamela was not on the elevator.
y'all before a judge or in court.
Well, we had, when I went for my job, we had a courtroom at work. So we had to go in the person.
Like,
Yeah,
y'all like a deposition.
they had a Chinese man, a black man, and a white man. The Chinese and the black man said fire him. I mean, the Chinese and the white man said fire me. The black man said, I know Ricky, he did not do that. And I did not do that.
Yes.
But they still fired me in 2001.
Right. So when you're in the United States, okay, there are situations where they give jurisdiction to companies to basically act as judges in their own facilities and whatnot. So if this is before them and they made a decision accordingly, then yes, that would be considered simply because of the fact that it is in a court setting. However, you could say that, well, because it's not in our court setting, but that doesn't really matter. The point is when you read this in conjunction with the fact that we are getting these laws to go into the land and it's creating a structure for us, that is what would have happened. They would have went before someone, okay, and that someone would have made the decision. And the people who have the right to make those decisions in businesses are usually whoever the CEO or board appoints. Now, quick question. I'm gonna get to you, sis. Don't forget. Quick question. You said that you were gonna let somebody borrow money.
She wanted to borrow money, but I used to charge people for money back then.
Cool. So now you said that you were giving them $300 and they were gonna have to pay you back $450.
She wanted $320 to pay a light bill. I told her to give me back $450.
Right.
I had to wait 2 weeks.
Cool. Was this a sister?
Yeah, I was doing it for real.
Was this a sister?
So
Was this a?
yes, I had to wait 2 weeks.
Hold up. Was this a sister?
Huh?
Was this a sister?
Yes, in 2001.
A sister, like a black one?
Yes.
Okay, let me tell you. You probably had this happen. I'm just telling you.
I mean, I was wrong then. I didn't know
No,
that.
listen, I'm just telling you though. I'm just telling you.
I was
Okay.
charging her sister. I'll use the real money.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's probably what it's. The both sides was probably.
He back. Hey,
Yeah.
I come around. Look, I come around on the second floor. I come around on the second floor. How my boy Rico? Man, what's up? He said, man, you better go to the office. What you talking about? Man, Pamela went down there, got old girl down there to talk about you went on the elevator. I said, what? Man, you lying. I go ride my little paddy jack around there, you know what I'm saying? Hard head, no glasses on, nothing, ride around there all through the whole plant. Man, I pull up, I say, what's up, Mike? Man, Ricky, it ain't good. I know you ain't do it. I said, what you talking about? Man, Pamela, such and such, such and such. I see, man, because me and Mike were just talking about the day before. I said, Mike, I'm taxing everybody in here for money. Because all of them had gambling problems and everything. I'm taxing everybody. Because I got to wait 2 weeks. I got to wait 2 weeks for my money, so I'm taxing everybody.
Yeah.
And so I told her, I said, look, I got to wait 2 weeks. So I need to get some money. I got to wait, I give you $320 a day. But I want $450 in 2 weeks. She said, I'm not getting you that. I ain't getting you nothing back but $320. I said, when you ain't getting it then? She said, I'm gonna show you. And she walked off. I ain't paying no mind. I went right on my pallet jack through the rest of the whole plant. Next day they got me.
Yeah. Well,
9 years went down the drain like this.
right. So you can do that. Okay. That's 50%. Well, it's 150% interest, which is crazy. But
and I would hit people way harder than that. That was a woman.
right.
If somebody come borrow $200, I want $400 back. I mean, they had bad gambling problems, so I mean, I was hitting them.
Right. So, yeah.
Yes, I was bad. I was bad, baby. I mean,
Can you hand the mic to Sister Mona right quick? Yeah.
I can't remember how I was gonna word this question after all that. But it was in reference to something you said, and I just wanted you to repeat it. You asked, I think, Kermit asked about the law that we were discussing.
Which one?
And, the bearing false witness. And you said, and I don't want to quote you because I can't remember how I wanted to, but you said something to the fact that he gave us those laws not knowing that we were gonna have to use them, or something of that nature. Not breaking.
I'll repeat it, but go ahead. Yeah, I'll repeat it.
Okay, repeat it, because when you said it, I took it as it was almost a contradictory of him being omnipotent, because he's all-knowing, so
Right.
he knows everything before it happens. So I would take
Yes.
that statement that would be out of context then.
Great question. So what I'm saying is this. These laws are given with the point of the fact that the children of Israel were about to enter into the land, and the Most High was giving them structure. We know this because you'll repeatedly hear laws stated like this, okay? Just an example of one off the top of my head. It says here, these are the statutes. This is Deuteronomy 12:1. These are the statutes and judgments, so the laws and the consequences for breaking them or keeping them, which you shall observe to do in the land which the Lord God of your fathers giveth you to possess it, all the days that you live upon the earth. Okay, so this example, this is actually going into destroying idols, but the point is, the Most High has given us these laws with the intent that this is the structure that we're going to live by once we get into this land. Okay, so in terms of testifying, right, we're having to apply bearing false witness to our conditions today, like on a job where you are in a court setting. There are people who are basically given the jurisdiction to make laws or make rules or whatever, and then hold you accountable for said rules. We are living in that state, and so that's why it is applicable to today in that sense. However, when the Most High gave us these commandments, when you go back to Deuteronomy chapter 1, our judges wouldn't be a Chinese man or a white man, all right? These would not be the people who would make the decisions. The people who would make decisions would be these guys right here in verse 15. He says, so I took the chief of your tribes, right? Meaning the head men within each tribe of Israel, wise men and known, and made them heads over you, captains over thousands, over hundreds, 50s, 10s, officers among your tribes. And I charged your judges, right, at that time, saying, hear the causes between your brethren, right? So the judges were supposed to hear the causes between the brethren, not whoever was hearing the cause of Brother Ricky. All right, between your brethren, and judge righteously between every man his brother and the stranger, okay, and the stranger that is with you. You should not respect persons in judgment, etc. You shall hear the small as well as the great. The point that I'm making is simple. When you read these commandments, there is a context to it, and I'm just simply quoting the context. Not to say that these laws are not applicable when we're in foreign lands, because that is not true, okay? I just want to make sure I'm making that clear. I'm gonna say that one more time. These laws are definitely applicable, regardless of if you're in the land or not, most of them, okay? And how do we actually know this? How do we know this? In Solomon's prayer, in the book of 1 Kings chapter 8, what does he say? He says in verse 46 or 44, he says here, if your people, no, I don't want that. It says in verse 46, if they sin against thee, talking about the people, okay? What is sin? Transgressing the law, bearing false witness. If they sin against thee, for there is no man that sinneth not, and thou be angry with them and deliver them to the enemy, and they carry them captives into the land of the enemy, far or near, right? We're pretty far from Israel. Yet if they bethink or shall bethink themselves in the land, whether they are carried away captives, and repent. What's repentance? Confessing and forsaking, meaning I once sinned, I'm not sinning anymore, okay? And make supplication unto thee in the land of them that carry them captives. So here, you're repenting here. You're confessing here. You're forsaking here, okay? Saying, we have sinned and have done perversely, and we have committed wickedness. And so return unto thee with all their heart and with all their soul and with in the land of their enemies, right? Now, remember, he's quoting Deuteronomy 6:5, which says to love the Most High with all your heart, soul, and mind. What does Christ say about that? He says that is the greatest commandment, okay? What does he also say? On that commandment and love your neighbor as yourself, hang what? All the commandments. So now all of the commandments can be done off the strength of this one, okay? In where? Land of your enemies, which led them captive and prayed toward their land, and that thou gavest to their fathers, etc. Okay, so I just want to make sure that that's clear. Yes.
That's not what I was asking.
Wait,
I
what?
understood that. I was asking because I thought I heard you say that he gave us those laws because he didn't know that we were gonna break them. And that's what is what I caught. And maybe you said it and didn't intend to say it that way. So I was asking because we just gave a definition of him being omnipotent and knowing all things.
Yes.
So surely he knew that we weren't gonna keep them laws.
Yeah, okay, that's a little bit separate. So I don't quite remember what I said word for word, but I can tell you that what I meant to say with regards to bearing false witness is when the Most High gives us these commandments, it is with the intent of us being in the covenant with him, and also because of the fact that this is the structure that we're going to live under once we get into the land. Because there are commandments where you actually can't do it without being in a designated place. So in terms of whether or not the Most High knew we would break his laws or not, we do know that because that's written. The Most High did know that we would break his laws. As a matter of fact, you can read that in Deuteronomy chapter 30. Same book, like most of these verses are coming from Deuteronomy, okay? So he says in verse 1, look how Deuteronomy 30 starts. This is letting you know that the Most High did in fact know that we would break these commandments, okay? It says, and it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon you. What things? Well, Deuteronomy 30 comes 2 chapters after Deuteronomy 28, which is what? Him telling you the blessings and the curses, all right, for obeying or disobeying the covenant. He says the blessing and the curse. Wait, let's go back. And it shall come to pass, this will happen, when all of these things are come upon you, the blessings and the curses, which I have said before you, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, whether Yah your Elohim have driven you. So we know this, okay? So I just want to make, if I said that, that's totally wrong, and you could see that that's wrong just with this one verse, right? Among others. That's fine. This is a Q&A, open Q&A, so it doesn't matter.
My question is based on Exodus 20 and 12, when it's talking about honor thy father and thy mother. I was wondering, how do we honor our parents when they're not in the truth? I have a very specific example because my parents are in the truth. I got it written down on my phone, by the way.
No, you good. Go ahead.
My parents are in the truth and don't have the proper knowledge to prove any man that I brought to them. But because of this scripture, I still asked Harry to ask them for my hand, even though we're not really that close. And then we have like a bad, not the best relationship and stuff. But I still asked him to ask them out of respect for this commandment. But the situation that I'm now dealing with is like when it comes to the actual ceremony, I don't want them to be there. So I'm trying to see if I'm out of line in regards to this scripture for not wanting them to be at the actual ceremony.
Great question. Yeah, that's a good one. So now we know that according to the scriptures, there is no way to get around this. Okay, not honoring your parents. The only thing that you can be, I guess, disobedient to your parents on is if they're asking you to do something that is against the Father. Because we know that Christ says, what? He that loveth father or mother more than me is not worthy. Okay. When it relates to the marriage ceremony, it is important, all right, regardless of if your father is in the truth or not, because right here, your father might not even know this, okay? So this is the good thing. But this, I do have to tell you this so that you can see this yourself. It says here in Numbers chapter 30, if a woman also vow a vow, in this case, a marriage, right? If you vow in a marriage, or you do vow in a marriage, so this is part of that. If a woman vow unto Yah and bind herself by a bond, being in her father's house in her youth, and her father hear her vow, and her bond wherewith she had bound her soul, and her father shall hold his peace at her. Okay, key term, hold his peace at her. Then all her vows shall stand, and every bond wherewith she had bound her soul shall stand. Now, you know what? Let's just keep reading before I start talking. But if her father disallow her in the day that he heareth, not any of her vows or her bonds wherewith she had bound her soul shall stand, and Yah shall forgive her because her father disallowed her. What is this law telling you? If your father does not approve of your marriage, which according to this law, like I said, he probably does not know this, but let's say he did. He knew this law, and let's say he didn't like Harry for whatever reason, okay? If you try to marry Harry anyway, in the eyes of God, you are not married, okay? In the eyes of God, you are not married. If he hold his peace, matter of fact, in the modern way that people get married, they will say something at the end when the pastor's about to finish. He'll say, if anybody objects to this marriage, speak now or forever hold your peace. What do you think he gets that from? That is a custom that goes back thousands of years. The only person who that line is for, biblically, is your father. Which means that he has to be there, present, upon you making that vow. Or even if he's not there and he hears it later, all right, you could have done all the wedding and had all the party and all that. Upon him knowing, and he says no, okay? In the eyes of God, that marriage is null and void at that point. And he will forgive you for it, okay? But at the same time, you do have to keep this in mind. This is why I'm saying what I'm saying, because there's really no out, okay? This is the problem when you're in captivity, okay? And when you're breaking the Most High's commandments continuously, when you serve other gods, when you didn't do what you were supposed to do. These are the effects, okay? And there's not always a way out. Many times it's just you have to go through, read what his word says and maneuver through it and do or keep the commandments the best way that you can. But as it relates to your question, in terms of honoring your father and your mother, if your father knows this, okay, and he decides to act upon it, there's nothing you can do about that.
So do you think, because he has already asked like my father for my hand and my father told him yes.
Mhm.
But when it comes to the actual ceremony, do you think I have to have him present?
Well, if he's already told him yes, then this is irrelevant. Yeah, I didn't know whether or not he told him yes or not.
Yeah, they like him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is good. You have his blessing. He said yes. That's it.
Okay.
Did you say he wasn't coming or you didn't want him?
I don't want them there.
You don't.
Yeah.
You had that right.
Yeah. Because usually, like you'll see the father of the woman plays a role because he's supposed to, walk you down and all that stuff, right? That's symbolic. But you don't read in the law any customs of ceremony, right? We know that they had ceremony, but if you want to do your ceremony a certain way, that's totally up to you.
So in this situation, just say her father didn't like Harry, but he was really keeping commandments, being a rightful husband. All that stuff is going to go away. That's what you're saying.
Wait, say that one more time.
Like for example, you said if her father said no, and he a righteous brother to his daughter, but he don't like him strictly because of the way he lived, keeping the commandments and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If they wanted to get married, basically all that's still irrelevant. If her father say no, I don't like him.
Listen, we just read, if her father disallow her in the day that he heareth, not any of her vows or her bonds wherewith she hath bound her soul shall stand. What I'm saying is, the only way that what you're saying can come to pass is if you say, I don't care about this law. Okay? If you're a righteous person, you can't not care about this law because a righteous person cares about the law, regardless of the situation. So in other words, if you are a man, a righteous one, allegedly, and you go and try to marry a woman and her father does not want you with her, there's nothing you could do about that.
I don't agree with that. I'm just gonna be real.
All right. This only counts to me. When I read it, I was trying to flip and find it, but my bad, I was making noise.
Yeah, go.
I wasn't just flipping just to be flipping.
I got you. You good, bro.
But it says, honor their parents. I'm trying to find that spot. In God or in the truth. You only honor your parents that's in the truth.
Mm-hmm.
In God. The ones that's not in God, that's heathen, you do not have to honor them, from what I see.
No.
It say honor the parents in God. It say in, I-N.
Did you read that in Exodus 20?
That's in the Bible. I was trying to find it, but I can't find it on my page. I got to flip through too many pages. It was annoying people, so I had to stop.
Listen, it's good. Let's go to it. Let's go to it.
We'll go to it. In the truth.
We're going to go to it. I know what you're talking about. I'm just
going
to ask you.
In the truth. Honor your parents. In the truth.
I understand.
That word I-N mean a lot. Because my parents were heathen, I do not have to honor them.
That's fine. That's not what I'm telling you. I'm not telling you to...
It's in the Bible. I-N.
We're going to go to it. What I'm telling you is this verse here in Exodus 20 and verse 12, okay? It says to honor your father and mother. It doesn't give you conditions, okay?
Yeah, I see that they got one say in the truth.
We're going to go to that, but that's not in the law, okay? We're going to go to it, okay? We're going to go to that. What I'm telling you here is when you read this law, there is no conditions on it. So if you add conditions to it, you, by adding conditions to it, is breaking the law. Let me show you. And then we'll go to that verse that you're talking about. Hold on. It says right here. No, this is not what I want. This is Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 2. Verse 1. Now therefore, hearken, O Israel, all right? All of y'all claiming to be Israelites, unto the statutes and unto the judgments, which I teach you, okay? For to do them, that you may live and go in and possess the land which Elohim of your fathers giveth you. This is another verse that could go to your question, Sister Amuna, right? He's telling us to do this when you go into the land. He says in verse 2, you shall not add unto the word which I command you, neither shall you diminish aught from it. that you may keep the commandments of Yah your Elohim, which I command you. Okay? So now what I'm telling you, or what we're reading, okay, is there is no conditions on honoring your father. Now you brought up this word, in the Lord. Let's go to this verse. Oh my goodness, they got so many verses that talk about this.
It was in the Old Testament where I was talking about. In God, honor your parents in God.
The good thing about the internet, if you can roughly paraphrase it, you can find it. That's in Ephesians. Okay. All right. Ephesians 6:1. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Now you're saying when it says in the Lord, what does this word in mean? A preposition denoting position, place, time, state, instrumentally, etc. Relation of rest. Now, what this is letting you know is that children are supposed to obey their parents, but when you're reading in the Lord, you're basically suggesting that if your parents are not, quote unquote, in the Lord, then you don't have to honor them.
So my parents devil worshipers.
If your parents are devil worshipers, again,
honor them.
what I've already established is if your parents are telling you to do something that is against the Father, then that is something that you do not have to do. We know this. Okay? I'm telling you that. If your parents are doing something that they're doing, you cannot tell them what to do or what not to do. Okay? You can, well, let me not say that. You can tell them not to do something, but you can't force them not to do it. So if your parents are devil worshipers, you could tell them, yeah, you're going to hell, you this and that, blah, blah, blah. But you can't make them stop. You don't really have the ability to do that here anyway. Okay? So when it's saying to honor your father and your mother, it's talking about it from the standpoint of obedience. So if your parents ask you to do something and it's not against the law, then you are supposed to do that.
So how would I be honoring my parents if they tell me I'm a child and they tell me to do something that's totally against God?
But you don't have a choice if you're a child. What can you do?
I think the word honor needs to be defined. What does it mean to honor?
To be obedient.
Yeah, to listen to what they say.
To be obedient. Yes.
I get it 12, 13, eat that pork chop. We're going to this Christmas party.
Mm-hmm.
Do this and that.
Again, a 13-year-old. Okay, let's put yourself in the mind of a 13-year-old.
I left the house at 12.
That's fine. If you a 13-year-old and you decide you know this, you have some teacher teaching you this, you're not supposed to do those things. You decide to leave. Okay, there's nothing wrong with you doing that because you're leaving because your parents are forcing you or basically putting you in a position where you can either do what I tell you or you can leave. And as 13, you don't really know how to survive on your own. But you could make that choice and leave if you want to. That's what I'm saying. Because that's going against the will of God. However, if your parents are telling you to do something that is not outside of the law, all right, it's just some random thing. Like my father asked me, hey, can you go do X, Y, and Z? All right. Then me honoring my father, I will go do X, Y, and Z. My father's not in the truth. Okay. But because these scriptures tell me that I'm supposed to honor my parents, then there's really no way that I can get around that. I can't say, well, you're not in the truth, so I don't have to do nothing for you. Okay, that is a gross misinterpretation of that law. And that's the only point that I'm making here. If your parents are devil worshipers or they breaking the commandments or all this other type of stuff, and they try to tell you to do the same thing because they doing it, obviously you can't put anybody above the Most High. Okay?
All right, question.
Real quick, Sister Moon had a question. And then we get back to you.
You go ahead, Sister Moon, don't mess you up.
I was just I wanted to reference Colossians 3:20.
Colossians 3:20.
But I think that would go along with just being obedient.
Colossians chapter 3 and verse 20. Okay. It says here, children, obey your parents in all things, for this is well pleasing unto the Lord. This is the same author who wrote Ephesians. Okay. So when he's saying in the Lord, if you're taking in the Lord to mean in the truth, and the only way that you're obedient to your parents is if they're in the truth, that By saying that is you adding to that commandment in Exodus 20.
I guess I'll put do. I mean, if a kid today coming up, they supposed to do whatever their parents say do, even if it's bad.
I didn't say that.
No,
I,
he said
I
if it was
specifically.
against the
No,
father.
they just say, oh, you're a child. You just said it. That's you're a kid. You gotta do whatever your parents say do.
But he said if you a child and you have knowledge of his truth, and they tell you to do something that's against that.
That's taken away.
No, it's not, because what I'm quoting to you is in the book of Matthew. Christ has already told us this.
That's a law to tell you don't break the commandment.
Where is this at? Here.
You gotta choose. You want you go this way or this way?
Here it goes right here. No, you choosing right here. Choose. This is what you choosing. He says in Matthew chapter 10 and verse 34, "Think not that I am come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace but a sword. For I have come to set a man at variance against his father, a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And a man's foes shall be they of his own household. And he that loveth father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. And he that loveth son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me." So what is this telling you?
So
This is,
right.
brother, what I'm telling you is, first, listen, what I'm telling you is something that's very, it's very, let me not say that. I'm just going to explain it like this. When you read the law stands on its own, okay? You cannot use New Testament scriptures to add to the law. You can only use them to help you understand it, okay? There's nothing in the law or the prophets that trumps the commandments, nothing. All these things do is they give you support for the understanding of what the law already tells you. What does this mean? When you're reading to honor your parents, you honor your parents in all things. But if they tell you to do something that will cause you to not be worthy of Christ or not be worthy of God, then you can make the decision to not honor that. We know this because there's many times in the scriptures where there is somebody who is a parent, all right, who makes their child do something that is wicked. I'll give you an example. King Asa, all right, in the book of 1 Kings, chapter 15. Again, there's nothing in the Bible that trumps what the law says. Where is this at? All right, so watch this. This is King Asa. This is when he reigns in 1 Kings chapter 15 and verse 9. It says, "In the 20th year of Jeroboam, king of Israel, reigned Asa over Judah." Look what Asa does. "And the 41 years reigned he in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Maacah, the daughter of Abisalom. And Asa did that which was right in the eyes of Yah, as did David his father." So now it's telling you here that Asa, he did the right thing. He kept the commandments. He was what you would call in the truth, okay? He took away the Sodomites out of the land, and he removed all the idols that his fathers had made, okay? So his fathers, these are people who he's supposed to honor, okay? They put up idols. They created idols. They made these idols. He destroyed them, okay? Now, obviously, his fathers wouldn't want him to do this. His fathers would want him to walk in their ways, but he destroyed them. Look what he did with his mother. It says, "And also Maacah, his mother, even her he removed from being queen." So he took her status away. This is his mother. He removed her title. He removed her status. He removed her from being queen. It says because she had made an idol in a grove. And Asa destroyed her idol and burnt it in the brook of Kedron. Was that honoring his parents? No. But we can see that because his mother and because his fathers were wicked, they were devil worshippers, as you just said, we see his response. And his response is a good thing because what he does, it says he did that which was right in the eyes of the Lord. So this is how you explain this.
But when you 12 and you ain't got nowhere else to live, you might have to adhere to something.
That's correct. But see that this is where the point comes in that if let's say that there's a boy, right? He's learning the commandments, he knows the commandments. His parents are telling him to celebrate Christmas, all this other stuff. And he doesn't want to do it, okay? There's only one of two things that can happen in this case. One, he can try to run away, okay? And who is he can't take care of himself. So obviously, if he's not gonna do that, he's going to be living with somebody, okay? Somebody like, let's say, a brother in the truth already, and he flees here. Only problem with that is we live in the United States of America, okay? And the United States of America gives jurisdiction of children under the age of 18 to their parents. So if this child runs away and they come to you, and the parents know that they came to you or somehow find out that they come to you, the law enforcement is going to force this child to go back to his parents' home. All right. Now he can run away again, and then this can happen again. This is the circumstance again as to what happens. See, look, I don't have all the answers for that. This is us being in captivity, and as a byproduct of you not being righteous or you doing what you want to do, and us not executing the Most High's law, you have situations like this.
But in the parents can be, the father will chastise those parents that do lead their children.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
If they are being obedient to their parents and their parents are the ones that's causing them to fall away from God, then he's going to punish them. And it made me, I was just telling her, I thought about the scripture that talks about us offending one of the little ones.
Yeah.
And him saying you might as well put the millstone around your neck. That's the punishment for them leading their children or causing their children to fall away from you.
Great point. Let's read it. It says in Matthew 18 and verse 1, at the same time came the disciples unto Yeshua, saying, who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? Okay, who is the greatest? And Yeshua said, or called a little child unto him, and set him in the midst of them, and said, verily I say unto you, except you be converted and become as little children. What does he mean when he says that? This is so important. All right, I'm glad you brought this up.
When he say become as little children, you go to listen and obey his every commandment?
Exactly. That's the point. Because children do not have a mindset that'll cause them to be disobedient to the Most High's word. Like, for example, and I'm going to use this just because it fits the example. When you just said, I don't agree with that, when we was reading about where the father can disallow you to marry his daughter, okay, that is his daughter, okay, that is not your daughter, that is his daughter. And any man or woman, or any man, his children, his servants, his cattle, his wife, these are his possessions.
So he controls
In essence, okay? And so you, as the man who wants to marry this woman, you must ask him permission for that. Okay, but your mind, based on where you live and based on the conditions that we live in now that says, well, you know what, this is a good man, this and that, why can't he marry her? You know, that's what your mind is telling you. A child would not do that because a child does not have that to even think about. A child just says, well, if he says to do this, then that's what he says to do. And that's what this scripture means. The greatest in the kingdom of heaven, all right? The ones who are ensured a spot are the ones who are converted and become as little children. He says, you shall not enter into the kingdom of heaven if you don't do this, okay? Whosoever therefore shall humble himself as this little child, okay? You cannot humble yourself when you're holding on to things that you think are right, okay? It says the same is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Matter of fact, when you read the book of Proverbs, chapter 14 and verse 12, it tells you there is a way which seem right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. This is why you need to put that off, because it might seem right to you, yes, but what's right in the eyes of God?
Yeah, Brother Rob had the question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Where the mic at? I'm sorry, bro. My bad, bro. I didn't even see you. Yeah, go ahead. Get the mic.
I got one. This about. I'm glad this didn't happen like that toward Harry now. But say Harry went to sister dad, and her dad, he'd asked for her hand in marriage, and he'd say no because you don't do Christmas and you don't go to church on Sundays.
Yeah, that's really what I was getting at.
So he wanted him to do pagan things. That's the only way he could take my daughter in marriage.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, bro.
But that your beef with her dad ain't got nothing to do with her.
Most definitely, but most likely.
But it say if a man was to leave his parents and become one, you know what I'm saying?
I'm trying to, but he kept us too, so
So you just gonna Break up with her?
I love her, but her father forever going to hold that against me. What I supposed to do if we going by this law?
Well, you're
Tell him to keep his 70 shekels and we gone.
So you gonna give up like that? God. Man.
I feel like it's gonna end up one way.
How?
One day, some tension gonna get.
You ain't never gotta go see her parent ever again.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
no.
according to this,
like he said,
How?
yeah, according to this, her father controlled her, so he constantly like, you not for her.
And then back then, you had to give him dowries and all that and land. He ain't giving you nothing now. You ain't getting nothing more.
but like he said, if you're not, if the father says no and you still do it, you going against the father.
Yeah.
Most
I'm
High.
going against the
But he asked
I'm
he wanted him to
I'm
do
going to get
unholy things to get his daughter.
The why don't matter.
And that's fine. That means you're not gonna do it. Because you're gonna be
Why
going
don't
against
matter.
the father. You know you can't do that. So you have to leave
Either way I go, you not her father. You got a daddy. Your fault.
I know that. But
You in his butt.
I mean,
It's
listen.
clear. He clearly said, if the
You gotta
dad
honor
says
that.
no, then you gotta honor that.
and
Because
really
you
and truly,
righteous, and you gotta, if you don't, then you going against the most.
and
High.
he don't have to give you a reason.
Right.
Yeah, the why don't matter.
So you could come up with the worst hypothetical in the world.
Right.
Well, you know, my daughter, I want her to be a devil worshiper, and you're not a devil worshiper. Like
So,
these are the like nobody does this. Most men don't even know that this exists
what's
in the
the
first place.
What's the penalty for that? Married
Y'all not married.
no, marrying someone, going marry somebody that doesn't have
You're not. That's what I'm trying to tell you. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You're not married.
Yeah, if her father say no, what you do, even if you try to go learn.
He's saying what's the punishment if he do it anyway.
Yes.
If you
daddy
if,
say no,
that's what I'm trying.
and he go marry
That's what I'm
her
trying to
anyway,
tell you.
like I'm saying I would do.
What
Thank
my
you.
point.
what?
You're going against the father, not the
Yeah,
dad.
what's my
Dad,
punishment?
the
Am I
But I'm
Most
only
High,
going.
the Most High, not
Oh.
the dad.
What did
I
what
feel
the
like
Most
I
High
can't
say
go
happen?
for
What does the Most High
What
say
is the
happen?
consequence for
Yeah,
that?
what's the consequence?
He don't give you. He don't. Hold on. Every law does not give you a consequence.
Right.
Okay. So in this particular case, in the book of Numbers, chapter 30, they don't give you a consequence. So the consequence, if there was one, would be based on who? The judges. They would determine a consequence.
Oh, so the judge, the people, the men around me gonna talk.
No. Not just regular men. I'm saying the judges.
Yeah,
The
the
judges.
I mean the judges, yeah.
And her dad would be the one that bring you up on charges. Probably.
As a matter of fact,
But hold, it gonna be holy men though. It gonna be holy men that gonna be judging me, right?
And the holy men gonna go back.
The holy men gonna reside with me
No, they gonna
because
go with that law.
no, they're not. No, they're not. They're not going to reside. Listen, I need you to understand what you're saying is the reason why the children of Israel got kicked out. Because you cannot put your own spin on the commandments. It doesn't matter. You are. You are. Because if you're saying,
no, I'm talking about the people. All right, when I go there, you gonna go to court, right? And be like, I love this girl, she love me. I asked for the marriage. He told me I gotta not honor the Sabbath and do pagan feast days.
bruh, but see, this is what you're missing. If I'm a judge, let's say this happens. You got this woman, you and her on this side. Her dad is right here. I'm the judge. You think this dude is gonna tell me in a court setting of a righteous person, the reason that I don't want you to marry my daughter is because you're gonna be making her keep the commandments?
He gotta give a reason.
No, he don't.
No, he doesn't.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. That's what I'm trying to tell you. He just
I got to be young.
I want my dog because I want Brian Renchu.
look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. This is what I'm trying to tell you, bro. This is Exodus 22 and verse 16. If a man entice a maid that is not betrothed, meaning if you do like what Kermit is saying, you take her without asking, okay? Specifically a virgin, because when it says maid here, this is talking about a virgin, all right? It says, and lie with her, he shall surely endow her to be his wife, okay? So now he's saying you can't skip the endowment process. You must pay the dowry.
So that's the way around it right
No, it's not. Because when you read the next verse, it says, if her father utterly refused to give her unto him, you still got to pay. And he'll take her from you.
Because he slept with her already.
Exactly, because she can't get a man to pay a dowry for her again. You only get one virginity. Once it's over, it's over. So if you take it without asking first, okay?
Pay up.
Precisely. If you take it without asking first, you have to pay, and the father can let you have her, but if he refuses, you have to pay anyway.
He keep your money and you don't get the woman.
Exactly.
God.
That's what. Listen. Oh my God. This is crazy, bro. Hey.
Me and Kermit still was trying.
Hey.
Man, you been gave up.
Hey.
Me and Kermit still was trying, man.
If I love
You
her a
gave
whole
up.
lot, I'm just gonna take my chance with the judge.
Hey, thank you. Look,
We finna have these little yellow babies.
that's right. That's right. Couple of them, you know, I got some.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I got some dark ancestry in there. Couple of them might come out
Them
chocolate.
two right there, Don't listen to these.
They good already. They already got it established.
I just hearing this.
But it's a
makes
good thing
sense.
her father is okay
Like,
with
one
the
thing,
union. That's
listen,
what makes
If
everything all
they
right.
were to do that, whether either like if y'all did that when it was time, like the father's still not gonna honor
No.
or ordain
No.
marriage. Like he's still not gonna.
You're not married. That's what I'm trying to tell you. This is, listen, Hebrews 13 and verse 4 says this. Marriage is honorable. You're not married. Okay? If you run off with this girl anyway, okay, allegedly, father said, no, you're not doing it, da, 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 da. She says, uses her autonomy and just runs away with you, and y'all go run off in the sunset like a Disney movie or something, okay? Yeah. You are not married. Those vows that you said, according to God, you're not married. Right. So you can say a vow to him, and he can say a vow to her, and you could really mean it.
Y'all just shacking up.
Well, in this world,
No, they not.
in this time.
In that, but we're speaking of in this time, because now all you gotta do is go get married.
But if Pop said no to four cows, Harry go with 8. You say no to 8, give him 12.
Don't listen to Gary.
That's extortion right there. That's
Harry's future father-in-law has said it's
he
okay.
could. Harry,
that doesn't even matter.
To do with you. We're having a totally different. Theirs is fine. That ain't got nothing to do with nothing.
Yeah, I know.
They in line.
Yeah.
Right. So that's irrelevant.
Yeah,
but you guys see, this is what happened. You guys are coming up with these hypothetical situations. Again, what you have to realize is
you're up too early.
Is there are most men do not even know this at all. Yeah, no. Okay. So if you just ask a man for his daughter to wife, most of the time he's just gonna tell you go ahead. Okay. So this is really only for righteous men. This law protects righteous men, because a righteous man, if he has a righteous daughter that he is raising, and that's what this law is actually for. Like, you guys are asking all the wrong questions. A righteous man. Hold on. Let me say that again, because there's no such thing as a bad question. But let me redirect your mind so that you can see what this law is actually intended for. If you are a righteous man and you know that you're raising your daughter to be righteous, okay, and there's a man who she has fallen in love with who is wicked, this law is giving you the protection that you need from this man towards your daughter. That's why this law is here. This law is not for the wicked man to use his daughter as a hostage to not allow a righteous man to get married. That's not what this law is for, although technically that can happen. The original purpose of this law is to let you know, as a righteous man, your decision to hold your peace when your daughter makes a vow with any man is you acknowledging that that marriage is lawful and God will honor it, okay? That's what this law is for, specifically. And to protect your daughter, because typically, there are people who don't pick good mates, okay? You might fall in love with somebody in the beginning, and it's like, okay, well, y'all didn't really pay attention to certain things. The father is not in love with the man. The father can look at the man, be objective, and say, listen, based off of what you're telling me, based off of your conduct, based off of what you do, you're not a man of God. I won't allow you to marry my daughter. That's what this law is for.
And that's what courting is for. You would know the man was evil before you love.
Hold on, let's get where's the mic? Can we Harry, then you.
All right, it's just a quick question. So that I was trying to get some context on, not context, but understanding on that one scripture in Matthew's when Christ said, if will break one of the least commandments, he'll call least in the least in heaven.
Mhm.
So IUIC will put it as you're not getting in. So does that mean that? I just see it how it is. You'll be there, but you'll just be called the least, you know?
Right. So when we just read Matthew 18, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so Matthew 18 is a precept to this. Well, not a precept, but a cross reference. Let me say it like that. And here in verse 3, it said again, except you be converted and become as little children, okay, you shall not enter into the kingdom of heaven. So now, when it says breaking the least of the commandments, the only reason why you would break a least commandment in the first place is because you think it's a least commandment, okay? And remember, when he says least is a subjective term. So you may think a commandment like, let's say tattoos, it don't hurt nobody, whatever. Let's say that's something that, you ain't killing nobody, you're not stealing from nobody. This is something that you just want to do for yourself, okay? Although you're not doing anything wrong to anyone else, you are still breaking a commandment, all right? And so in your mind, this is a least commandment because it's not that significant to you based on what you're saying, all right? A least commandment could be different from person to person, okay? You may consider that as significant, whereas somebody else may not. It's subjective. So you really can't gauge that. But you have to gauge the point as to why somebody think it's a least commandment in the first place. And it's because they have not been converted as little children. A little child says within himself, if my father, all right, or my spiritual father in this case, if the Most High tells me to do something, it doesn't matter if it's grievous or not. It doesn't matter if it's great or least. Because the Most High said it, I'm going to do it. That's what a child says. That's what someone who has humbled himself and has been converted will say. A person who has not been converted in this way or who has not humbled themselves as a child will say, yeah, well, but this and that, what if, okay? Not to say that these are bad questions because hypotheticals can be informative and edifying in certain ways. But if you're doing that with the intent that you want to break this thing, you're going to be in confliction. You're going to be in conflict with this verse here. And all the other verses that talk about being born again, becoming a new creature in Christ, all that, okay? You'll find it. I mean, look, I'm just going to be honest with you, man. There are many Hebrews, okay? There are many Hebrews. And if I push this, I could push it to anyone who I talk to. There are many people who all you have to do is go through these commandments one by one and see if they'll do it. And you'll find that just because you keep the Sabbath and you don't eat pork, that don't make you righteous. It's these commandments right here that you don't want to do. You don't want to honor your parents, even though they're not in the truth when they tell you to do something that's outside of the truth. It's that commandment. It's the commandment when you want to marry a woman and her father tells you no and you want to try to do it anyway. These are the things that determine whether or not you're a lukewarm Hebrew or not. Okay? That's why this is critical. It's huge. Because you walking around here saying that you keep the commandments. Well, no, you don't. Because when we talk about it, when we pull it up, and when the circumstances come up, what are we hearing? Well, you know.
Yeah. So I had sorry to bring up another hypothetical.
No, go ahead. No,
this might happen.
No.
So I already have like the blessing of my father to join with Harry. But let's say we go ahead and do the ceremony, and he's not included in it. Is he able to go back on the blessing he already gave me?
No.
If we already got married.
No. Great question. Okay. Now let's go back to that same verse, okay, and let's read further because there's a clause that talks about that. So this is a great question. So when we read verse 5, right? Where is it? Let me see. This is talking about the husband, but the same concept could apply, right? So when you read this, let's just start back at verse 5. It says, but if her father disallowed her in the day that he healed, not any of her vows or the bonds with which she had bound her soul shall stand, and Yah shall forgive her because her father disallowed her. And if she had at all an husband, when she vowed and uttered aught of her lips wherewith she had bound her soul, and her husband heard it and held his peace at her in the day that he heard it, then her vows shall stand, and her bonds wherewith she had bound her soul shall stand. So basically, what the Most High is telling you is the reason why it's so important for the father to make this decision is because when he walks you down the aisle and hands you to the man, that is a signifier of him passing the authority that he had over you, and he is giving that to the husband. So now the husband has the same ability. And then it goes on to say in verse 10, but if she vowed a vow in her husband's house and bound her soul with the bond, with an oath, and her husband heard it and held his peace and disallowed her not, then all her vows shall stand, and every vow bound with she had bound her soul shall stand. But if her husband utterly made them void on the day that he heard them, then whatsoever proceeded out of her lips concerning her vows and concerning the bond of her soul shall not stand. Her husband have made them void, and the Lord shall forgive her. Same concept. It says, every vow and every bonding oath to afflict the soul, her husband may establish it, or her husband may make it void. But if her husband altogether hold his peace at her on the day, then he established all her vows and all her bonds which are upon her. Where is this verse that? I'm looking for something specific, though, that answers your question directly. Where is this at?
So see, you thinking if you don't invite him, he might say, "Oh no, you don't have my."
It's like-
No, but that's not it, though. I mean, at the point in time you held your peace, which is basically yes, is a signing of holding your peace. You can't go back after that and change it, because, but I could have sworn I read that somewhere in this same verse. Divorce, where is he? Huh. I'm gonna have to find it. There's a verse that says that, though. I just have to find it for you. Yeah, that's a good question. But no, you can't do that. Once you hold your peace, that's it. Okay, that's the point.
And then I'll just be under his authority.
That is correct.
Okay. Let's make sure.
All right.
Where is this verse at?
Now this question, it might seem silly, but I don't think it is. You know how many girls today who do not know who their dad is,
Yes.
and you ask them to marry them, and their dad not around?
Mm-hmm.
So how would that go?
So when you read this verse here,
Like a brother or something?
Yeah, brothers like next in line, like the grandfather.
Okay,
So there's no scripture to give it.
no. Well, no, there is a verse that so it doesn't directly say this. Okay, it doesn't directly say this. But here, when you read Numbers 30 and verse 9, it says, "But every vow of a widow or of her that is divorced," basically a single woman, okay, they have wherewith they have bound their soul shall stand against her, right? So, in other words, she does not have a head, right, to make this point.
So as long as she get there and nobody stand up and say no, they good.
It doesn't matter. The only person that matters is the father, though. That's what I'm saying. So if there's no father, then verse 9 here, okay, all the vows, because she doesn't have a head. However, this verse, right, this is not, like, this doesn't actually say this. So the verses that I'm about to bring up now are inferred, but you don't really have like a jurisdiction on this. He talked about brothers, okay? The reason he's talking about brothers is because of the simple fact, when you have inheritance, your inheritance, a man's inheritance, right, all the things that he possesses, they will pass to a certain line, okay? Typically, when a man has inheritance, he passes that down to his sons, okay? This is Numbers 27. Here's the law. Well, where is it? Yeah, right here. It says, "And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, The daughters of Zelophehad speak right. Thou shalt give them a possession of the inheritance of their father's brethren, and thou shalt cause the inheritance of their father to pass unto them. And thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel, and say, If a man die and have no son, you shall cause his inheritance to pass to his daughter. And if he have no daughter, then you cause his inheritance to pass unto his brethren, And if you have no brethren, then you should give his inheritance unto his father's brethren. So basically what Will is pointing out is there's a line of contact that you can use in order to, feel like you're getting permission, all right? But this is inferred, all right? This doesn't directly address that point. All right, what directly addresses this point is Numbers 30, verse 9. Anybody else had a question before I start going again? Oh, it's 5 o'clock. Bro, this is crazy.
Did you
bro.
get a definition of honor?
Did you get the definition of honor?
Oh, I'm sorry. Honor. Yeah, let's go to it. Exodus 20.
Yeah, to obey.
But I mean,
Yeah, we can get the actual like.
what's wrong with me.
Yeah, we can get the actual.
I'm not understanding. My hand says to be heavy. Like the same word for honor is used as heavy. I don't understand.
Says here.
Heavy means to be burdensome.
Yes.
So it's saying not to be. In this
Oh, so but don't be a burden to your parents. Seem like
burden.
okay.
Go ahead, read it. See how you.
Yeah, no, you go.
I'm looking at. I don't get it.
Oh.
It says here a primitive root to be heavy, i.e., in a bad sense, burdensome, or in a good sense, numerous, rich, causatively to make weighty, abounding with more grievous effect, both would be charged with. Excuse me.
Yeah,
So
how y'all speak like that? That don't make sense.
Actually, just telling me to listen.
Well, that's what he did say at first, but
I mean, that's the point.
Yeah,
Burden,
obey.
that's what it
Listen,
said.
don't. If I tell that child go do something, you gotta listen to what I say do.
So 22 times it reads honor, and every time I read honor, it's reading as we see it here, as we think, give the king honor. Or
Correct.
honor this. But then it also is the same Hebrew word is heavy.
Yes.
16 times, but the heavy is not in line with how I see honor, I guess, in my 2020.
How do you see honor? What's going on?
When I read honor or when I read heavy?
When you read honor, not heavy.
When I read honor, I guess it should be up there too. When I read honor,
What should be up there?
they shall follow them. Exodus 14. I will get me honor upon Pharaoh. Exodus 14 and 18. I've gotten me honor upon Pharaoh. We go down to Numbers. For I will promote thee unto very great honor. Numbers 22 and 37. Am I not able to indeed to promote thee to honor? Like, how does heavy and honor?
Yeah, that's stats, like what you talking about.
Yeah,
like,
like
stats. Like,
Yeah,
putting them on the pedestal,
like,
get a
yeah.
certain point.
Well, it did say the definition.
like Judges 9 and 9 is that one of them?
Judges 9 and 9, you said?
Yeah, that word is used. Yeah, but the olive tree said unto them, should I leave my fatness, whereas by me they honor God and man, and go. That lines up with how I see honor. Yeah, kind of.
The olive tree said to him, wherewith honor God and man. I don't. What's the difference though from Judges 9 and verse 9 and Exodus 20?
None. I'm just saying that they're all in line. I'm looking at all of them, and I see honor in all those places as I see honor. But how is the same word used for heavy 16 times, and then if we look at some of those,
Well, what is this word here?
kabayat, what?
All right, so first off, we have to ask ourselves a question. Is it the same word? Okay, so kabab, when you go back to Exodus 20, you look at this word here, or what is this word? It's saying the same, or is it saying the same thing? That's what we're questioning, right? Because I don't know the...
Yeah, I mean, I guess according to the Strong's.
Yes, so it's the same. So now what that means is that the same concept applies, okay? So when you're reading Judges 9 and 9, the same concept is applicable to Exodus 20 and verse.
The same manner, the same word.
Right, right.
But that's not the conflict I'm having.
Right, the conflict you're having is in the definition.
No. Go to 1 Kings 12 and 10.
1 Kings 12 and 10.
Now what was that, 31:53?
Yeah, 35, 13. You said 1 Kings what?
12 and 10.
12 and 10, all right. So it says, and the young men that were grown up with him spake unto him, saying, Thus shalt thou speak unto the people unto thee, saying, Thy father made thy yoke heavy. Okay, so this word heavy is the
See,
same.
that's 35:13.
No, it is. Watch this.
That's gonna be the same one?
Yes, because you found that through Strong's, right?
Strong's, right,
And
yeah,
so
I
what
read
they
it
showed
like
you
that.
was a cross reference of every time the word is used, regardless of how it's translated in English.
So how is heavy there and honor in Exodus 20?
Exactly.
The same Hebrew word. That's what I'm confused.
I got you. So that means, but that means that you're conflicting with the definition versus what you're thinking. That's what. Yeah. Right.
Because when you said, when I said, well, the question is, what is honor? And you said obey, I was comfortable. I could have left that alone and gone on by my business, and I'm fine. But then my inquisitive self, I go look up honor, and it don't even have the word obey.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Doesn't that, doesn't to be heavy, well, from when I read the definition, couldn't it mean like to hold a, you know how, like to hold a weight? You know
Yeah,
what I'm
like
saying?
burdensome, that's how it
Well, no, I
reads.
mean like, no, I mean like in a good sense. Like you see how it said bad and good?
Yeah,
You know how it said, how we say, something holds and carries weight, but it could be like a good weight.
that
Yeah.
carries.
That's kind of
But how do you apply that to honor your mother?
your
Do
parents
you carry
carry
the
weight.
weight?
They carry
No,
weight.
no.
They
So
carry-
Parents' word
what she's trying to tell you is when you look at the word for burdensome and you see it means heavy, right? You're looking at it from a actual weight standpoint, right? Something that is literally heavy physically. Okay.
Not necessarily burdensome. There are some emotional burdens.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
But even those emotional
They're
burdens,
heavy.
they're difficult to overcome. Is the
Yeah,
point?
yeah. I'm
Right.
dealing with some heavy stuff, bro.
Right.
But
So.
I ain't talking about that heavy. But I'm sorry.
No, go.
Go
What you
ahead. No,
saying?
you can go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, well, the point that I think that Sister Nama is trying to convey is when you look at how somebody looks at someone, their stature, okay, you can look at their stature, and the figurative idea of it is that it's heavy, not so much that it's more physical or emotional, right? It's more mental or spiritual, is what she's trying to explain to you.
So if I'm honoring parents or magistrates or kings,
You look at them
as heavy.
right, figuratively.
These big dogs.
Right.
Okay.
But why are you call? But look at what you just said. That's a metaphor. You said big dogs.
Yeah.
Okay. Big is like if you try to break down big in English. Okay. Big dog implies that this person has more respect than the average person. Exactly. So you see how in this modern day analogy, you can see the correlation as to why the translators, even though the definition says heavy, but you can see the word that they use as honor. Right.
So honor thy father and thy mother is more in a sense of looking at them
In a certain.
as
This is exactly. But look at this. Why?
They big dogs.
Look at this.
That's my house.
You mentioned magistrates, right? The reason why you look at magistrates as heavy or honoring, right, or honorable, is because they have the ability to do something to you if you don't obey them. Okay. So now, if a regular dude, all right, tries to tell you to do something, you like, well, who are you? Okay. But if this is a king, or if it's a judge, or if it's a captain, and they tell you do this, well, now if you don't, there's consequences behind it. Well, what are the consequences for not obeying your parents? Remember, we're looking at these scriptures from a righteous angle. All right. So before I read this, I need to make sure you understand. We're looking at these scriptures from a righteous perspective. If you have a stubborn and rebellious son, you can destroy that stubborn and rebellious son. Okay. Now, whether or not people actually did this is irrelevant. The point is, the Most High put it on the table for you to be able to do. All right. That's in Deuteronomy chapter 21 and verse 18. If a man have a stubborn and rebellious son, which will not obey who? The voice of his father or the voice of his mother. All right. When they have chastened him and he will not hearken. So now you've chastened him. You've gave him some of those consequences that would otherwise have him be alive. He's still not listening. Then you take him to the judges and, everything happens thereafter. The point is, you look at your parents like this because when they tell you to do something, if it's in alignment or if it's not out of alignment from the Most High's law, then the same way a king could tell you to do something, like a king could tell you, build this temple, build this mansion for me, build this, build that. You might not want to do that, but because you are a subject to the king, you have to do it, okay? And so in the same way you have the concept of honoring your parents. Guys, it is 5:12, so we're going to go ahead and close out. This felt really quick. I'm not gonna lie. It did not feel like 2 hours.
I guess because we were just,
Everybody was interacting.
we had all kind of things going on at one time.
And you did. Is that close? Did we get to the bottom? Oh, we went back up.
We didn't even finish the 10th.
We ain't finished. We got to the.
Now,
we didn't
keep this
get
in
to the
mind.
last one was covered.
We read 9 commandments, and it took us 2 hours.
Yeah. I mean, that's good.
Yeah. Any prayer requests?
Anything special on covet?
Of course. Yes, there is. We pray for. Okay.
My uncle got her leg cut off.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
All praise to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, source and creator of all things and everything, our leader, protector, provider. First off, Father, thank you, Father, for allowing us to gather on this Sabbath. I hope it was edifying. Continue to cleanse our mind, body, souls, and spirits, our hearts, Father, as well as for praying for Emmanuel. She said, pray for all our children, as well as Brother Rick, his uncle got his leg amputated, as well as why it's on my mind, Father. We spoke on it today. Give your blessings and strength to Brother Harry as well as Sister Zoe as they form in this righteous covenant. They continue to sacrifice and submit to you, Father, as well as just protect us as we part ways and go back into this world, Father. We starting our week, Father. Continue to just hold us tight. Continue to correct us, convict us. Anything that we're dealing with that's not of you, Father, continue to purge it out and constantly cleanse all our households, protect it, and constantly just make us disciplined, faithful, obedient servants, children of you, Father. Amen. Oh, Lord.